So welcome to the Social Media for Business podcast, where I am your host, Rebecca Bridgen from Innovate Social, specialist in managing B2B on-brand maritime social media. And today I have the real pleasure of speaking with Alex Anderson, who is Managing Director for Maritime Filming. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much. Very excited to have a little chat about all of this.
So Alex will be sharing your experience and insight into filming and videography. So maritime social media. So it's a real interesting topic actually today. And you've got some fantastic stories to tell. I could definitely assure the audience of that. We've already had a little chat. So first of all, I want to start off by saying thank you for coming onto the Social Media for Business podcast and being our fourth guest.
My pleasure.
And imparting your knowledge and sharing your journey for the rest of the maritime marketing community, but also for maritime business owners who might be listening in for some great tips and advice. So we're going to kick off because you absolutely dropped a bombshell on me yesterday when we were talking about when you actually started maritime filming. How old were you? Come on, let's start with that.
So when I first started on this journey, I was 14. The company was formed officially when I was 16, because I think you had to wait until you were 16 before you were allowed to formate a company with Companies House. But yes, the idea basically came around when I was 14. Started with one of those small little drones you get for Christmas, nothing more, probably about 50, 60 pounds. Attached a little GoPro knockoff to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Hoped for the best, and I think I immediately got it stuck in the tree in the garden. So that was the moment I knew that this was the job for me, I think. And moved up from there, got a slightly larger one, and before I knew it, people were, for some reason, paying me to fly around the world and take photographs of boats. And I don't know why, but they're still paying me to do it now.
Well, I know why. I mean, which is some quality. And I think I mentioned before that actually one of the reasons that I reached out to you, I think a couple of months ago, is I saw, I was actually following, turns out, one of your really good friends, Harry Tiger, because I really love his content. And obviously, you know, he's selling Living the Dream on these super yachts. So of course, naturally, I'm going to follow that and go, oh, it's only. And I saw a post about your journey, I think, in business and how far you'd come and how quickly and how well you'd done. And it was just a real feel-good story. So I thought, all right, I'm going to link in here and follow this guy. And now I have the honor of having you on my podcast. So yeah. So maritime filming has become, as a result, not as just of that post, but that's sort of when I first was aware of it, of becoming one of the go-to businesses for filming maritime video content. As we both know, there are some challenges to filming in the maritime sphere. So I thought maybe we could talk about some of those challenges now, and you can share some of the bigger ones and how you overcome them.
Anyone who works in the marine industry knows that it's a little bit different. It operates in some strange ways. Often boats are delayed by weather. There's not all that many industries where, you know, wave height is a massive problem. But we find that a variety of challenges come across us, whether it be wind, weather, boats being delayed due to parts, an owner deciding that they just want to go back onto their super yacht for a week when we had a full shoot scheduled. That kind of thing comes across us fairly often. It's a fairly harsh environment to go out and do any form of filming, content creation. You know, the kit that we're using, it's professional kit, but it's not geared necessarily towards marine. We then adapt it. We kind of build our own parts to go onto it or cases around it. But even still, the salt that we're dealing with, the water when, you know, we're going on an offshore race or something like that, is, you know, so damaging to the kit. So there's a lot of processes that we've put in place to deal with that. We've got, you know, our drone licensing is all specially catered to operations from boats, which is kind of quite specialist. So there's a lot of different elements. And I think, you know, one thing that people ask me sometimes is, you know, will I go out and film a wedding? And I'll say no. You know, I'm not a wedding photographer. There's people who are especially, you know, they spend their entire life perfecting weddings. And we've basically decided to be niche. We just film boats, yachts, ships, things in the marine industry because we understand them. We have a team that all have a marine background. We've all come from boats in some way, shape or form. And I think that shows when you understand, you can speak to a skipper in the same language as them. You can understand the tides, the depths. You know, we know that a boat turning to port hard, we know how to film that rather than, you know, not being able to understand what that means. Or, you know, we know the strange terms. You know, if you try and explain to someone what a galley or a heads is, if they're not in the marine industry, they're just not going to get it. So a lot of that comes, you know, very helpful on shoots. You know, all of our team are also commercial boat skippers, so they understand, you know, what's going through a skipper's head. They understand what we can and can't do, and we can drive a chase boat if we need to. So that's come in really handy. But I think just that aspect of how fast the industry is and how things change so quickly. Like my calendar, I often don't know what I'm doing next week. In fact, I currently have no idea what I'm doing next week, if you ask me right now. So that's a real challenge because things come in so last minute and, you know, change so quickly. But yeah, we never know. But that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it a challenge.
I mean, we were talking about this before, but being in the maritime industry actually really does help. I mean, like you're saying, maritime businesses actually really value that experience, that knowledge, that understanding. But I'm just going to throw this in there. I mean, you know, you've got to have your sea legs if you're going to be on a boat, and people don't even think about that. You know, you don't want to be going overboard, never mind your equipment. And having a bit of sailing experience myself, although I am awful at sailing, so I'm not an amazing sailor, but I have been there, and I know when a sailing boat is going really fast, you know, and you're standing there sort of, you know, pulling the jib or whatever, you know, you've got to have your sea legs. So, you know, kudos to you for those skills as well, just being able to stand up.
Absolutely. A lot of the time you're sort of over at an angle whilst also trying to film, whilst trying to hold on to something, whilst framing it all up. And that's quite hard to explain to someone. But I think it's a really tricky thing as well to recruit for. You know, we're recruiting at the moment, and, you know, step number one is doesn't get seasick really. Because
that's
wouldn't
really
be ideal.
Yeah. and maybe physically fit in some way to be able to stand on a boat for, you know, however many hours.
Definitely needs to be able, and there's a lot of, you know, I suppose safety that has to come into it as well, with being able to get around a boat fast. You know, all of our team are, for example, trained in sea survival, which is a key thing. You know, if we're going on an offshore race into some of the biggest waves, we did the Fastnet race last year, you know, massive waves, all of that kind of thing. So that's always something that you've got to have in the back of your mind whilst you're also trying to capture the whole story and the content. You know, if there's things getting thrown around, that's when you need to be capturing it rather than holding on, if that makes sense. So it's a very tricky one.
Absolutely. Well, this is a great opportunity to advertise for that position. So if anybody thinks they're up to it, you know, get in touch with Alex.
Get in contact, please do.
So moving forward, we were talking yesterday about the reason I even reached out to you in the first place was, in my opinion, 2025 is for social media the year of video content, and it's only going to get bigger and improve more. So what video marketing trends, obviously being a specialist in social media video marketing for maritime, what video marketing trends do you see dominating B2B spaces right now that is especially prevalent in maritime?
The number one thing across pretty much the whole industry, but maritime is perfect for it, is that vertical short form content. That's your Instagram reels, your TikTok, a popular subject at the moment, of course. But even using that vertical content, now we've started to see that becoming more popular on things like LinkedIn, where more people are scrolling LinkedIn with their phone, as well as YouTube Shorts are now a huge way to reach a massive audience, get new subscribers, and then feed them that long form content that's more informative and more what you're trying to actually show your audience. So that short form content is key. That's, if you do one thing, that's it, short form content. And if you can make it as high quality and as engaging as you can in those first few seconds, brilliant. But just plugging that short form stuff that's vertical is exactly what we need to be doing. So that's the biggest trend at the moment. That's what the algorithms are picking up on. If you're doing Instagram social media, they'll push a reel way before they push a still. So yeah, that's the biggest trend that we've seen at the moment.
I heard from an Instagram specialist friend of mine just this morning, actually. This is how much we talk social media, is she was saying that in terms of the reels for Instagram, I mean, most of my client base are B2B, and they're not quite the same as your client base. So they are a bit more LinkedIn. But she was saying that the Instagram reels, if you do a carousel of reels, they give you a second chance if that carousel hasn't performed quite so well. And what they do is they will focus the picture on a different picture within that carousel to see if that will attract the engagement, which I thought was quite interesting. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Always nice to share these little ditties that we share. So, and actually, you've even given me something yesterday that I need to do with this podcast, actually, right here in doing some overlays. So I'm going to be practicing some new video techniques, courtesy of Alex Anderson's advice. So moving forward, how have technological advancements, because we've just started talking about that, and you've started talking about what you could potentially do right now as a business owner to help market your business on social media, depending on where your target audience is, of course. How have technological advancements helping influence the way you approach video production, be that drones or AI editing tools? And that's the first part of the question. And the second part is there a low-cost way to begin creating impactful content to get business owners started to then learn the value of the video and then say, oh, hey, Alex, actually, we want to move up a level, and can you help us?
Absolutely. So I think, the technology is insane how it's come on in the last 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, when I first started, going back really quickly to when I first started, there was no drone you could buy with a camera affixed to it. And now we've got drones there was no one that was, a complete solution that you could just go and buy off the shelf. And now you can buy for £500 a thing that will fly with a 4K camera. It will give you downlink feeds. They're incredible. Drones have transformed us. My entire career has effectively been built on them. That's where I started. I started with just providing drone, and then went into ground filming, and then into editing. So I sort of did it the opposite way to almost everyone else. But I think they're so integral. They're incredible. Before, you could only get a helicopter out to do such a thing. So they've come on massively. The camera technology on the ground cameras that we're using has come on in leaps and bounds. We can shoot now with significantly faster images, significantly faster slow motion video, higher resolution, which allows us to crop in more in post, have a bit more choice as to how we're shooting things. We've got underwater cameras now that can shoot in similar things to above the ground. Like, the technology is incredible. And even 360-degree cameras now, we can drop someone into an immersive experience and allow them then anywhere in the world to be experiencing that. And I think we said the other day that this now allows you to almost have a boat show anywhere in the world 365 days a year through the power of social media.
Yeah.
And, maybe we could touch on that a bit later, but there's some really exciting parts there where you can effectively do everything and show everyone everything through the power of online, thanks to that new technology. And that's also the platforms as well in the background. Even our editing software now has AI built in. We can, drop captions in. We can take a landscape video and make it portrait very easy, which is great for that short form vertical content. But there's just so many technology advancements. And the great thing is that's also trickled down to all the low cost stuff. As that high end kit that we're using has developed, effectively all of those small little technology increases that we've been gaining have kind of come available to consumer. And if you're going to start doing any video stuff, then I'd recommend buying a gimbal.
Gimbal. Yes, I was looking at one of those.
They're fantastic.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely, they're amazing.
Right,
so
south, right.
Write that one down. And my top tip for the entire industry is if it's got the 3 letters DJI written on it.
Yeah.
Whether that goes for drones, that goes for gimbals, that goes for microphones, whatever you want to buy, they are the Apple of the technology of filming content creation world. So they're the easy go-to, incredible technology that you can buy a phone gimbal now for £100, probably less than £100. And what that's going to do is it's going to mean that every time you take a video for social media as a marine business, if you walk around your boat showroom or you're walking through, your sail loft or whatever it is you might do, just put the phone in the gimbal and it's going to make it nice and smooth. And also, I'd highly recommend going to 0.5 maybe on the camera, which gives you that slightly wider angle. That can also give it a bit more of a sort of in-person perspective. But yeah, definitely get yourself a gimbal if you're looking for a low-cost solution.
They follow you as well, don't they? That you could have some that are also, that's
absolutely. So you can get you can get some with the apps. So it'll be perfect for if you're trying to show someone around something, it will follow you and track you around, or you can have someone else do it for you. But no, they are fantastic bits of kit. So I'd say that, and then get yourself a decent microphone, because there's nothing worse than listening to a video. It's got to be the biggest, reason to swipe past is just terrible audio. So please invest in that. And you can invest the £200. It's not a massive amount of money. And then, I think we were discussing yesterday on the phone, now you can edit using CapCut or all sorts of different Reels editors that don't require a massive amount of skill to be able to use them. So yeah, definitely worth people trying that out. And it's just about being consistent and having that high quality. And that's the hard part. That's where people struggle, is that consistent, trying to post 3 times a week on different platforms is tough. That's why people get in contact with you and us, is because they want it. They can see it's useful, but they don't have the time, and there's, time they could be doing other things. So
and also there is a skill level to managing social media and writing the posts and all of that, and the strategy behind what it is. But I learned something interesting the other day that is slightly deviation from this. We've been talking about AI, so I've been doing AI course on Coursive. I think you learn little bits, and it's something that I've spoken about a lot on social media because I find it really interesting. To anything that will make your life easier, I'm fully on board. There are those who are really quite vocal about, down with it because we lose our identity, yada yada yada. But I think just like the Industrial Revolution, if you fight it, you're probably going to lose. So you might as well embrace it. And you can now sell AI prompts on Amazon, which I was really surprised about. So, I think we're going to see AI engineers, but just going back to AI engineering, we're going back to what you were saying about technologies and things that you're seeing in video. I thought, I might make a prediction here that actually we were talking about how social media is going to evolve. Nobody can really understand, but when you were talking about, the 360 cameras, maybe, moving forward, social media will become just a general VR experience, and you'll be able to interact with the videos that come on. So that would be quite an interesting sphere if that technology were to develop. But you've had it here first at the Social Media for Business podcast.
Exactly.
I digress.
Exactly. You know it.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I agree. 100% agree. I mean, there's already technology now where we can 360-degree map a boat, and then a broker can sit there with a client and walk them through the boat,
show them through
on a video call like this, and show them every aspect of the boat. And boats are selling like that. And if you're not doing that as a brokerage, you're missing out. It's quite simple, because people don't have the time necessarily to fly, a few thousand miles to go and see a boat. They just want to be able to buy it, get on board, enjoy their time, and they're off. So
it's a less costly experience, isn't it, really, when you add up the money that it would cost to visit the vessel.
And just that overall time, and being, if you've got a broker that's offering to show you around on a video call and it's going to take an hour of your life, why not? You jump on it, you go, okay, fantastic, that boat looks great. And whether you then go to view the boat or whether, you just make a sale then, is something else. But there's so many different technology forefronts. And I think we were saying yesterday that if you spend £1 million on a boat show.
Yes, I love this. Yes.
You can spend £1 million on a boat show and you get all sorts of random people through the door. You've got to serve them all champagne and canapé and all that sort of stuff. Or you can spend on social media and video, and you can target those people specifically. You can then bring them into a virtual reality of the boat, show them around the boat in your own time. They're in a comfortable living room. They're very happy. They can, show it with whoever they want. They can go back and look at different aspects. And that's, offering a boat show every day of the year, whenever people want it. If it's raining, it doesn't matter, because the boat looks like it's in paradise. So yeah, it's those sorts of things that I think are going to massively transform social media. And I think it's going to be very interesting, as you say, to see how that goes over the next few years. And I think there's obviously some incredibly bright minds behind social media and a lot of change going on in the background. And I think that will be very interesting to see what happens with it. How does it evolve? How does AI come into it? I know that Meta are obviously looking at AI. How does it all change? But I think there's a vast amount of opportunity there. And I think it's about utilizing those tools, learning AI, learning what it can do for you, learning what social media can do for you, how it can help you, and not fighting it. I think if you fight it, you'll be left in the Stone Ages. You'll be,
I agree,
sat there printing in magazines for the rest of your life and wondering why no one's looking at them. when there's people putting on virtual reality goggles to look around boats and, paying for them with Bitcoin. So yeah, I think it's a sort of fight or die, or whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, I mean, they've even got those glasses now, haven't they? Where you can, I mean, I'm pretty sure they probably are already on the market, but they're just not quite affordable yet. And we know when we saw mobile phones come onto the market, that didn't take long for them to become affordable. And it will be a case of, you just have on your glasses and I'll ping an email over and you can go and look around the boats. And fundamentally, social media is about, for businesses anyway, is about reducing that sales cycle, making that sales process more efficient. And for me, I mean, if that's not a return on investment, I don't know what is.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And the fact that we can target, exactly who we want. We can target people with that net worth. We can target people, this is very super focused now, but we can target people with that net worth who have followed Monaco Yacht Show on Facebook, who, like Ferrari as a car company. All of those things, we can target them, and then we can just send them what we want to send them, rather than just sending everything out in a magazine or an advert somewhere where it's just splattering but not really getting to the right people. So I think, definitely social media is incredibly powerful, and with the right content behind it.
Yes, exactly. And just to clarify with what you said there, is that paid advertising, or are you talking organic advertising for the targeting there, just for the business owners?
Sure. Yeah. So I think there's two ways obviously to do that. So the paid advertising is fantastic because you can select exactly who you want, exactly what ways, and target them, and it will work. It will give you the insights on it. It will tell you who you've met. But the other one that's really powerful is the collaborative stuff. So that's, on Instagram, that's saying, I am a yacht builder and I'm going to collaborate on Instagram with Ferrari, for example. Now, everyone who follows Ferrari is now going to see in the top there that we've said, say it's San Lorenzo. San Lorenzo are collaborating with Ferrari or Aston Martin, whoever it may be. Everybody who now follows that now has the opportunity to like that and then see more stuff from you. So that's really powerful, an organic way of doing it. If you can work with your social media team who work with their social media team to ensure that those collaborations happen and that you've got the content to fulfill that. Yeah. So it's a really easy way of doing that.
100%. And social media is all about collaboration. I mean, it really is. And you've got your business to business, and like you're saying, your businesses are communicating with your businesses. And then you've got the other asset of the person to person, still in B2B, who are then sort of, talking to the people who work under those brands, and resharing and whatnot. There's so many different things you can do to cross-pollinate that content. It's quite time-consuming, as you and I both know.
It is very time-consuming. It's easily a very time-consuming thing, which is exactly where we have a job, effectively, because people just want it done properly. And in order to do it you can do social media half-heartedly, but sometimes that's a bit of a tricky thing to do. If you want to do it properly, then either get someone internal or get an agency to help you would be my recommendation. But it's those powerful things like the collaborations that take time to set up and establish and work out the content and speak to the different teams. That's what takes time, rather than just posting a photo or posting a video. So definitely. Yeah, they definitely are one. Which actually leads really nicely into my next question. I feel like I should be a radio host or an anchor or something. Absolutely. I vote for it.
So are there any misconceptions B2B companies might have about video marketing that you'd like to address here right now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd say for me, the biggest one that I see fairly often is people kind of posting the same content on every platform. So that's not tailoring the content to the target audience of each platform. So, for example, we're posting a short form vertical video to trending music to TikTok and Instagram, which is great, but then we're using that same content and posting it to LinkedIn, and then it can get a bit lost. The messaging can get lost. The audience isn't going to interact. They're not engaged with it, because sometimes when you're on LinkedIn, you're in that sort of more business work mind. Yeah. So I think that's the big thing. For example, Instagram, you can swipe between things. Facebook, it's going to come in different shapes. It might be if you post 4 things, it'll be, in a certain pattern. LinkedIn, is sometimes better for landscape. So it's adjusting that content so that it works well on each platform. Normally, you can, generally speaking, use the same content. You might just need to format it in a different way or choose a different export in terms of whether it's landscape or vertical or square. But yeah, that's probably the biggest, I suppose, misconception or mistake, I suppose, that I see, is that you can just use the same thing on every platform and it'll all go well. That's normally not how it works. And there's also powerful features like on Instagram, you can do a question and answer or a poll or, you know, that sort of thing, and link things in different ways. You can't put a link for a bio in an Instagram. Sorry, you can't put a link in the caption on Instagram, for example.
Yes.
And the amount of times you see that where someone's put a link there and you're like, oh, but yeah, there's different ways to do that, through links in the bio and that sort of thing. But that's where I think sometimes a misconception comes.
Yeah, and it's tricky. It's tricky. And like I said this morning, I was having a conversation with one of my social media friends who, she is very much Meta. And I will say I'm very much not. I am more LinkedIn. So you're definitely great with Meta as well. Obviously, because you are the visual video aspect. And that does, like you were saying, really, really well on those traditionally visual platforms. Wherefore LinkedIn is it's a more educated audience, and they like to interact with, you know, the written word as well, and have more long form posts. But like you said, you know, video is edging into LinkedIn because we are being trained to engage with content visually and in a video way on the other platforms that we might go to in our downtime. I mean, I am a marketer's dream, which is probably why I got into this in the first place. Because every time I go on Facebook, I will buy something. It is a very expensive platform for me to visit. So if I'm honest, I mean, I'm just a total, and my friends laugh about it every time. What have you bought this time? I don't know. It was something at 2 a.m. in the morning when I had insomnia, and it's arrived, you know, 6 weeks later from China or wherever. But yeah, I'm going to move on to best practices now, because you've got a ton of them, and I'm taking notes here anyway, because you are the video guru, and I have very honestly tell everybody that I am not. So even though I try my hardest. So in your experience, what makes a video truly impactful for a B2B brand? Is it storytelling, visuals, or something else?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this again reiterates a little bit on which type of platform. Yeah. For example, a LinkedIn thing, a longer form, say, case study might be quite interesting, but a shorter form version of that for Instagram would be perfect. But I think the main thing really is high quality. You want high quality video of some sort. That doesn't mean it necessarily needs to be, you know, polished and clean. It just means it needs to be thought about and cut together correctly. You know, there's lots of things that go viral that are shot on a phone. You know, that's brilliant, fantastic, but it just needs to be thought about a bit more, basically, and the audio and those sorts of elements. And then kind of one of the key ones is hooking people in within those first 3 seconds. I don't know about you, but when I'm on social media, it's, you know, I'll give something a second, maybe 2 seconds, which in reality is terrible, right? That's someone has produced a piece of content, spent time thinking about it and posting it, and I'm dismissing it within usually a second. And it's that key frame, that first one, or the first 3 seconds, really, that you need to hook someone in. So if you can, in the first 3 seconds, tell them what you're going to do or show them something cool. I think we were saying, you know, the other day that, you know, if you're running, say, a teak decking company, and you've got a range of teak decking, in the first second, you know, spill a load of oil on that teak decking, because you've got people's attention, right? So you're now going to show them how easy it is to clean off because you've got synthetic teak. But don't spend the first 20 seconds explaining that you're going to do this. Just do it. Throw it on there. You've now got it there. Now you've got people's attention. You can slowly start wiping it off and explaining and then go into more detail. But it's those first 3 seconds where you've got to hook people in, give them a reason that they want to watch this. They need a reason in their mind that they're invested into watching this. And yeah, that's a really important thing. And then also, you know, if you want to tell a story or something like that, people love to learn. They love to learn about new things, new products, new ideas, you know, anything that can improve their life or make them more happy, basically. So give them some nuggets of information, give them some facts, give them something that's going to keep them watching for longer. And if you can, one of the best things for the algorithm is for them to get to the end of the video and keep watching. So they'll start watching again. So I know it's tricky, but if you can make, say, a short form video that's 20 seconds long and they get to the end and they want to keep watching it again because, you know, they've missed something or they want to go again.
Yes, a recap. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So consolidate your video, make it short, make it snappy, make it fast. If they watch it again, perfect. That's brilliant. So yeah, there's those sorts of things, but really it's just about tailoring it to your audience, hooking them in the first few seconds, keeping them engaged, keeping them excited, and a bit like we were saying earlier, using like overlay footage. So if you're talking, don't just have you sat there because I'm not interesting. The thing I'm talking about might be. So, put something over the top, whether it's, if you're talking about that teak decking, putting shots of the teak decking, putting shots of the gorgeous yacht doing 30 knots type thing. So it's those things that keep people watching it. But don't just have yourself talking because no one's going to watch it.
You're selling your services to me. I'm completely sold because this is like our third conversation on this. But
you'll buy anything, so I'll just put an ad on Facebook a bit later on, and we'll be fine.
Yeah. But honestly, I'm going cross-eyed, and I'm like, I want the Innovate Social video. We I want to go down that road, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's great, but it does take so much work, and I just get somebody else to do it who knows what they're talking about. Can you share a standout project that you worked on that had significant impact for a client, basically? And what was it that made it really successful?
That's a really good question. We get to work on such a wide spectrum of the entire industry, everything from, paddle boards and little tenders, all the way through to cruise ships, container ships, and some of the largest, vessels in the world. So it's tricky for me to pick out like a standout one, but I think one of my favorite ones is we've got a client on the Isle of Wight who build crew transfer vessels.
Yeah.
They build a third of the world's crew transfer vessels, which for those who may not know, they're the boats that go out to wind farms and drop all the people off. They're proper ocean going, go out in any weathers. Exactly. They're, beasts of a machine. And when we started working with them, they hadn't really done any filming before. They're a new startup sort of company. Formed from a previous sort of team of people who worked together. And we basically went in there and said, everyone's just doing commercial work boats the same. They, doing, boring phone shots or, a couple of professional images at the end. Why can't we take what we've learned from super yachts and luxury and, the hospitality and leisure industry where things are engaging and interesting and, have a spark to them and just apply this to, commercial boats. So we did that, which has been a huge success for them. The company has grown massively. I'm not saying it's anything to do with us, but the company has grown massively.
So
they've done really well. Well, I'm really not sure it's to do with that, but they've grown massively. And often, and who's the director of the company says, how fantastic the socials are doing, and it actually engages his clients as well, which is fantastic. Often, there's people who are building workboats there who we're promoting the building of the workboat, and that's getting seen by other people across the industry who may look to charter that boat, which is very helpful. And we're sharing all of that content that we're producing. But yeah, their digital presence now we're very happy with. We've grown their following across all the social media platforms. I think Facebook. I think so about 30,000 followers, something like that now.
Wow, that's really good.
So it's done very well for a company that could have gone two ways in terms of digital, if that makes sense. And yeah, we've just kind of done quite a few cool projects with them. They've built some incredible boats. They've built lifeboats, all that sort of stuff. So one definitely worth checking out, but we just took the visual cues that we've got from other parts of the industry and thought, what about if we apply them there? And that's been fantastic. And that's been one of my favorite ones to work with for such a long time. We've had, some incredible stories over time where we've done, we've broken water speed records at Coniston and done all the filming and supported them with the social media for that sort of thing. But I think there's so many different aspects that have worked so well, so nicely and come together. But yeah, Diverse Marine is one of my favorite long-term ones where we've worked with them for multiple years and just done all of their content. And yeah, it helps when you build a good product as well. That makes life a lot easier as a marketer when you can genuinely say, I will go on that boat in a big sea and it's going to be solid. That the team behind it are fantastic. It's tricky to market something if you don't believe in it. So I think,
agree.
One of our mantras is we've got two sort of things. First one is that our slogan is epic is the benchmark, where epic that's where it starts and everything must be better than this. If it's not better than epic, we're not doing it right. And the second thing is we'll only work with the best in each industry. We've, politely not worked with people before. based on the fact that we're working with, or we want to work with someone who's, we think has a better product or better service, because it's just genuinely easier to create content for a brand that makes a good product and makes a good thing. I'm not going to try and promote something that I know is not as good.
And it sells your services much better as well, because, by association, the quality is there. And yeah, I've been there.
It's always a tricky one. But yeah, no, there's definitely, reason to work with, the best in each industry and push those products. So yeah, no, definitely.
And for me, it's not just about the quality of products or services that they're delivering. It's actually also about the internal culture. Because obviously when you're talking about social media, you're talking about communicating the social aspect of that business. And if you've got a toxic culture, you're never going to get the returns from your social media marketing, because your employees aren't going to be on board. You're going to be telling lies all the time about how amazing your company is. And,
exactly.
People are going to be saying the opposite. And you can't tell lies, and you just kind of go, no, I can't.
And people see through it as well. People would see straight through that. I mean, we're lucky that all of our clients, we go in with a camera and people are like, oh, hi, how are you doing? Let us know if you want anything to be, done, because their employees have seen the socials. They like the socials. They like how it's portrayed. They know that that's how it is in the company. And it's not like, right, okay, you must all smile because we need it to look good for social media. It's they genuinely enjoying what they do. They're genuinely building good products. It makes it so much easier. But yeah, that culture is so important.
It really is. And to have employees, in on the whole social aspect is just a real key to your success, whether or not your social media is going to work. I've had clients where, half of the clients are like, no, we don't even want a photograph. We don't want to be on there. And you're like, how do I even, but yeah, there we go. We all live and learn, don't we? We live and learn to tell the tale. So actually, this is leading on to a really, really good one is we were talking about metrics earlier, and it's something that I've been really focusing on quite a bit lately, because I like to be able to show the value. And you already sort of briefly mentioned it anyway, but I was talking to the lovely Richard Holsworthy a few days ago, and he did marketing for Shell, I believe, at some point. And we were talking about return on investment. And I said, for somebody like a massive company like that, how do you, that sponsors, say, Ferrari, I'm not really sure if they do, but let's say they did. I didn't really follow those circles, but they did. How do you track the metrics of the impact, the return on investment of a huge spend for, sponsorship, something like that? And he sort of said, well, the only way you can really track that is if you don't do it. And I thought, wow, that's valuable. But there's lots of actually other things that you can track. So hit me with your perspective of what you're tracking to help really sort of understand the success rates of the social media marketing that you're doing.
Sure. That's a great question. I think, first of all, what are we tracking? We track absolutely everything. We know, how many likes we've got, how many likes our clients' competitors have got, how many follows they've got, their engagement rate with our client, our competitor's client, the clients that they're working with. We know everything, which is the power of social media. We can tell you all of those numbers. However, I would say followers, likes, views isn't necessarily the most important statistic in the world. You could gain 1,000 followers, but those 1,000 followers are completely irrelevant to your business. They will never buy your product. They have zero interest, and they're not even in the marine industry. Or you could gain 10 followers, one of which might go on to buy a £10 million boat, or might go on to book a cruise, or might, that sort of thing. So I think it's quality over quantity. There's a sort of prestigiousness or a sort of reputation involved with having a high number next to your follower count. There's no harm in having 100,000 rather than 8,000. But I think it really depends on what your goals on social media are. If your goal is just to have a profile with loads of likes and loads of numbers, you can technically pay people to do that for you. There's, you can just go and buy them. But why? At that point, it's a vanity project. There's no point. You're not going to get any real engagement that's genuine people. But if you're getting, 20 people watch your video, but one of them is interested and, goes through and buys something, then fantastic. I'd say, you've understood social media, you've pushed someone to buy your product, and, you've completed it basically. So I think, it is important to progress, but it's important to progress with people who, or, numbers that actually mean something. So I try not to, I try not to promise a client, okay, we're going to grow to 10,000 followers, because in some strange sense, there's no point. If we're growing to 10,000 followers, but we're getting 10,000 useful followers through collaborations, paid targeted advertising, that type of thing, then fantastic, because we're now reaching more people who are target audience. But yeah, I think the numbers aren't necessarily everything. We'll get, some months a client will get a viral video and it will get, 1.5, 2 million views. We have that, that happens fairly often. But those 2 million views, I try and, the next month when they come back to me and say, this, our videos have only got 5,000. I'm saying, yes, but those 5,000 people are core customers. They're people who, I can look at their names and I can say, that person's bought a boat from you. That person, loves boating and, is looking for an upgrade this summer, that type of thing. Whilst those 2 million people could be 2 million people in, some country thousands of miles away who's never going to buy anything. So that's massively, massively crucial. And I think don't just look at the numbers. Don't just look at the graph going up or down. Kind of understand the elements behind it. And also social media does just go in waves. As much as you may understand about an algorithm, there are some times when it just goes to the roof and there's some times when it doesn't. So yeah, I think that's a really tricky one to measure. But I think there's a lot to still analyze, and looking at how competitors are doing and where they're getting things from as well is also very interesting. But I'd say that measure success based on how people talk about your social media.
Yes.
So if you have So if you have a client that comes into your office and says, "Oh, I saw on social media that you are doing," or "I saw on social media, you've just completed this and it looked amazing," or "You're really busy," right? Subliminally, they have been taking it all on board. They've been seeing it in the background. They've come on board, they've come to you and said, "Oh, that video you just did looked fantastic," or something like that. So they're giving you feedback. That there is your statistic. That there is, how you can measure that success. It's how people respond to you and how people view you, but not necessarily the numbers attached to it. And I think I'll see if we can find it and overlay it in this video. Yeah. If there's nothing overlaid now, then we didn't find it. Yeah. There's a really, really interesting graphic that shows you just how many 1,000 people is. And I think that's a fantastic one. When you see a room full of 1,000 people and you realize that your video has reached 1,000 people, and it's not until you visualize how many people that is, think about how many people or think about how many, people you went to school with, that type of thing. And you suddenly realized actually 1,000 people viewing your video is incredible. You can't get that exposure from just, putting a little sign up outside your office. So it's kind of looking at those numbers and realizing that, yes, you could go viral on TikTok and get 10 million views, but those aren't necessarily the right views. And that actually your 1,000 views you've got on YouTube with someone watching your long form case study video, and then they've clicked from this through to your website, or they clicked from this through to another video you're doing, means they're interested, means they're engaged. And that's the kind of people we want.
And it's time to reach
it's a tricky
out.
one. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Alex, I honestly could sit here and talk all day. I really could. And I feel like it's probably the first of a few guest appearances over time, because it's been a real pleasure. But we're going to have to wrap up our episode 4 now of the Social Media for Business podcast. But I just want to ask, actually, what next? What's next for Maritime Filming? Are there any exciting projects or that you're about to start working on that you're allowed to share, of course?
That's a very good question. We've got lots brewing in the background. We've got a couple of, one very big thing that I can't quite say about yet, but we're going to be starting something very, exactly. We're going to be starting something very exciting coming in a couple of months. It's not branded as Maritime Filming, but you'll see it through our channels, hopefully. And that's going to give an insight and some quite exciting things across the whole industry. Hopefully we can get you involved in some way as well. But there's lots like there. We're also recruiting as a brand. So, if you want to come and do what we do, film across the world, or work with social edits, that sort of thing.
What's not to love about that? I mean, my goodness.
Exactly. But no, there's loads of exciting things.
And one absolute final thing to wrap up. So if there is one piece of advice for B2B brands about video on social media, what would it be? What is one thing they could go away and they could do today and see what the impact is of video on their social media feed?
Absolutely. So if you're going to do one thing, my advice to you is film once a week or post once a week rather, a vertical short form content. That's all you need to do. So put it on your Instagram, your Facebook. If you've got TikTok, put it on your TikTok. If you haven't got TikTok, maybe make your TikTok, and your YouTube and your LinkedIn. I know I said that short form vertical is not the best one on LinkedIn, but it's still better than nothing. If you're going to do one thing, do your short form vertical once a week, make it consistent, make it approachable, and remember those first 3 seconds are the 3 seconds you've got to hook someone in. So do whatever it takes to get people watching past those 3 seconds. That's my one top tip.
Perfect. And finally, where can our listeners learn more about maritime filming? Get in touch with you. Whereabouts are you? Well, I think we already know the answers. But if you want to spell it out for anybody who's a bit confused, please do go ahead.
It's the domain name I bought for £1 when I was 20 and nobody wanted to buy. It's maritimefilming.com if you want to find out more information. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, that's it for now. You've been an amazing guest, Alex. You've been an absolute pleasure to speak to today. I personally have got a lot out of it. And if you would like some teamwork between Innovate Social and Maritime Filming, I know I definitely would. So then reach out today for some kick-ass maritime social media content for your brand that delivers. And don't forget to like, share and comment on anything you found useful in this episode. And anyone or anything you'd like to learn more about for the next episodes, please let us know. We're always looking for new guests. But until then, goodbye for now. Bye, Alex.
Thank you so much.